Hi guy, welcome to another random memory video. This time I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about the whole Dungeons and Dragons craze back in the 80s. I mean, for me personally, I never actually ever got to play the game. I'd see the odd bit to be a school session and you'd sort of poke around and have a nosy, and I think the closest I ever got to the whole thing was watching the cartoon, which we'll get to in a second, and Hero Quest, and I think that was mid to late 80s, but it was a very, very good game. There was also Space Crusade, I think, came out roughly the same time. It might have been a bit later, but it was that era of game, and it's crazy to think about back in the 80s, the whole Sword and Sorcerer and the whole Conan series and everything, and all that. It was the thing. Everybody was excited about fantasy and everything. You know, Dungeons and Dragons was making absolute shed loads of cash, and that's just the way the market went. And even as a young kid, I mean, being like 5 or 6 years old and getting older as it grew in excitement, it got involved with everything from computer games, TV shows, cartoons, that sort of thing. It was, proper. It was the Pokemon of its day, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, over the years, I've dabbled here and there. I mean, like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, I've watched as a kid, and then I rewatched it a few years ago because it's got full set on DVD, and it's actually a pretty good show. It's got the usual serial style. Nothing really changes. You get the odd episode where something big happens, and then they just sort of get over it and then move on. And yeah, nothing really changes in the world. But the biggest push was always, we're going to get home. And I was actually sad to, at the time when I watched the DVD, I went online, why was there no last episode? Or, was it just cancelled? It was just cancelled. But they actually wrote a final episode and the script's available. And so they all got home in the end. And if you read the script, it's actually pretty good. And it's a shame they didn't get to produce it. But yeah, I mean, like over the years I've dabbled in and out, mostly in games. But about 15 years ago, I thought I just found an old box set of I think it would have been version 2.0, and I just started flicking through and having a read, and just drew me in as again. I thought, God, this would be fantastic. And this was around about version 3 was coming out, so yeah, it was around maybe 2000, 2002, not sure. And I bought a full set. I got the Dungeon Keeper's set, the Player's Handbook, a couple of the campaigns or something, and I just read through it all. I was hooked. And then I just couldn't find anyone to bloody play the thing with. It was so bleeding. I know I got overexcited. I shouldn't have bought them first before I'd realised. And I phoned around groups and everything, and the internet really wasn't. It wasn't as big a presence as it is now. I mean, finding a gaming group, even back then, it wasn't really touched upon. So I never had the chance to play the game, and it always made me sad. And a few years later, when 3.5 came out, I got caught up in that and bought that edition. And then I've been dabbling. I've got an IRC program from years before I used to do like Quake and Doom gaming on, and I still had the program tucked away. And I thought, well, that could be an interesting way of playing the game. And I started posting on a couple of forums, and we got a group together off the back of it. And this is years ago, and when broadband was 10 times worse. What is the early days, and the camera speeds and that at the time weren't great, but you could point a camera at the figures and do the dice rolls and everything, and do it that way. And we actually sort of played that alongside the IRC chat room, and did the Dungeon Master did the description. We took turns and did the descriptions that way, and it was really good. I loved it to bits, but even though it was social and you were chatting to people in the chat room, it just didn't feel the same as actually being there and having a laugh and enjoying some time with some mates and stuff. And I was always sad I was never able to get into that. And then when edition 4 came out, I never play it fully. I get into it for a bit, and then it sort of tapers off because I struggle to find the people. And then 4 came out, and I got really excited. It sounded amazing, and I bought all the books and read them all through. I was ready to play. I got a membership on the D&D website and stuff, and because there was software by this point, I think it was called D20. and you could use this software and more chat programs, and cameras, internet speed was better, and I started using that, and I had a fair bit of fun with it, and again, I got into a fair few online games, and by this point we were using mics and stuff, so the typing stuff had just disappeared. It was a lot better, a very, very enjoyable game, but I keep dabbling in and out of it. There's a whole world to explore, and it affects so many things, a bit like Lord of the Rings, the whole fantasy elements just affects everything, but yeah, I mean, it's always been there in the background, and I'm not really very geeky on that sense. It sounds like I am just playing D&D, but I think it creates that fantasy world, and it's just fantastic to get involved with. But yeah, I mean, have any of you lot? I mean, have you organised games? Have you got involved with anything like that? Have you ever bought any? I mean, I have nothing now. All the books and everything I've got. Again, I tend to dabble. It wears off and off it goes, and I think one of the best ones I had recently, it was like a box set, a big red box set, TSR is it? I forget, and it was like a starter pack with a whole single player campaign, because my thinking was, at least I could play this for a few hours and just see if I enjoy it still. Do I want to get back into it? And I did have a really good time with it, and I did dabble a bit past that, but you can get them things now, and now I think there's stuff like it's Pathfinder is like it's like a competitor to D&D. But again, it's not something I think involves more figures as well. I'm not sure, I'm probably wrong, but yeah, I mean, if there's anybody here, have you been involved with it? Do you still play it? Is it something you've got sick of? Have you any stories about it? Do you post below? Post a video reply if that's your thing, yeah? Anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening to me and Mad Ramblings. Please comment, rate and subscribe below, and I'll see you next time.